Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the No Frills Teacher Podcast. Today's episode is called Servant Leadership with my very special guest, Dr. Joseph Restino. Dr. Restino, thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm very excited about this, and I just want to let thank you. And I want to let my audience know, our listeners know that listening to this podcast, you're a very humble leader administrator in our county, which is the school district of Lee County in Southwest Florida. But for those who are unfamiliar with Dr. Racino, he is an absolute rock star of an educator. I'm very excited to have you on today's episode.
Oh man, you're building me up. I hope this is going to be good.
It is high expectations. Don't worry, it's all good. No pressure whatsoever, my friend.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So with that little introduction, Dr. Restino, you are the principal of Lemuel Teal Middle School in Lehigh Acres, Florida, Southwest Florida, for the school district of Lee County. And although you are the current principal administrator, what I like to do in one of my episodes is give a little bit of a background on my guest, a little bit of your story and who you are and what has been your journey in education so far. If you wouldn't mind taking us through a little intro, background, trajectory of your career from educator, teacher to administrator, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I graduated college back in 2008 with a degree in finance. I actually had no interest in being an educator at all.
Oh, wow.
And around 2008, that's when all the bankers that I wanted to be were either getting thrown in jail or fired. So I was not being a banker was not kind of in the deck of cards. So when I graduated, I came home, and my mom, who's a teacher over at Three Oaks Middle, she said, "Why don't you try your hand in teaching? You'd be pretty good at it. Why don't you try being a math teacher?" And I never looked back. I was a teacher over at James Stevens for 1 year. It was probably one of the most, trying, difficult first years of any, in the history of first year teaching, just because I wasn't good. Like I really wasn't a good teacher.
Are any of us good?
Oh my God.
Are any of us our first year? Come on, let's be real.
I set the bar so low. I was not good at all. And then from there, right after the first year, I just said, you know what, it's time to be good just all around, or try to work on myself and work on my knowledge base and my skill base and everything. And that led into getting my master's, to which I ended up get my assistant principal job over actually what is now Lemuel Teal, used to be Lehigh Acres Middle School. I worked for three really good administrators. I learned a lot from them, but while I was doing that, I took my time and kind of saw what I liked about their leadership style and what I didn't like, and kind of massaged my own. And then I believe I took the best qualities of all my former bosses, and I just came to the conclusion, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to keep going. And I got my doctorate from FGCU, met some really, really great people. And that's where I became assistant principal of the year. And then in the same year, I was board approved February 7th of about 2 years ago to open up a brand new middle school. Well, it came out to, I'm sorry, it's like about 2.5 years now. And I haven't looked back. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome journey.
That's remarkable. And I like how you had mentioned, and I think, because you are, a very humble, guy and leader. And you mentioned about AP of the year. I don't think people necessarily realize how big of an acknowledgement that really is, and that recognition, especially I feel when you're in the public eye, and as an educator, there's not a whole lot, I'd say, of recognition sometimes for a job well done or for dedication to our students and our community. So first of all, congratulations. I know that was
Thanks.
a few years ago, but I think that's amazing. Would you mind just kind of touching on a little bit, like, how was that experience throughout? Did you have any idea this was coming? What was that like? You were at, I believe, Harns Marsh Middle School at the time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And let's just say my boss was a really, really, Alex Dorzansky, my former boss, who's, one of my best friends. He he's really good at keeping secrets. I mean, he threw a whole entire party. And from, looking back as he was telling me the story, they wanted to kind of have sort of an intimate, bring in a couple administrators, but then it turned into bring my family, bring my parents,
That
bring
sounds like
people
him
from
for what I
all
could.
over. Yeah, my brother showed up. I mean, he had the dance team perform for me. Like it was awesome. But one of the coolest things, especially when you're getting any of this type of notoriety when you're an administrator, it really, I always joke saying I'm really just the okayest at my job. Like I'm just a straight fives. Like there's not many things I truly excel at. These awards are really on the back of the hardworking staff that
Mhm.
you work with. That's really what it came down to. Like that year, our gains in like math was out of control. That's when I was working almost hand in hand with Bianca at the time. I mean, her and I were holding hands everywhere we went. And she's absolutely brilliant. The
Yeah.
staff
Mhm.
that I was working with was absolutely brilliant. And so through their successes, it was just one more piece. It is kind of, yes, was the award for me, but it really was for the staff. It was an acknowledgement that their hard work has taken us to a new level where we were getting district recognition, such as, Steve getting Teacher of the Year, Allie getting Teacher of the Year, getting Golden Apple Awards. I mean, these, as much
It's
as we want to think, there is a little bit of selfishness to it, like congrats, like I won an award. But
mhm.
really, when you're an assistant principal and your sole purpose in being at that school is for the betterment of, the staff and students, it's a reflection that it's actually that your journey is working. And
Yeah.
that's what's really cool about it. That was the coolest part about it.
Oh, that's awesome. And for those who don't know, Harness Marsh Middle School and Lemuel Teal have some of the finest educators in Lee County and down here in Southwest Florida. Like you said, Bianca McKinley, her husband, Stephen McKinley, Anita Barber, all the people that you had worked with
Mm-hmm.
between, your former schools, AP and your current school, absolute rock stars and the games. And then for a little bit of background on your schools, those are in the east zone of Southwest Florida. I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. I don't want to give any misinformation, but a little bit higher, well, I should say, lower socioeconomic status, a little bit
Yeah.
more higher mobility rate with student
Yeah.
population. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
so. A little bit of a background on the schools, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the one of the cool things, but also just it's kind of, I don't want to say a double-edged sword, because that implies there's some negatives. Let's just say that the school did not have a historical population. For instance, they needed to fill the school. So we opened with 660 kids, and those kids were either getting moved in from out of country, out of state, out of county, out of schools that just didn't want to be in their school. And so they all started, moving to Teal. So we had a very, very interesting hodgepodge of students that were used to their prior year. There was no mentoring amongst the older grades looking down. It was really everyone, including the teachers, including the administrators, were new. So that was, so it added just an unforeseen layer of complexity that no one really kind of accounted for.
Yeah,
Like how do you make copies? Like these are crazy,
brand
like
new. Mm.
these are logistical things that you kind of inherit when you go into an established school. And that's the cool part, because you can start creating these things, but at the same time, you're also creating these things and you're freaking out about it. You're like, wait a minute, we're in October and no one knows the copier code. Like you're
Yeah.
telling me, like that's not
All
good.
those, yeah, all those
And
obstacles,
yeah,
the challenges that you don't think of because
like,
you said we take it for granted. They're inherited
like
usually when you come in.
you're you're telling me that I need to buy garbage cans for every single classroom? Like, wait, like hold on a second. Like that's crazy. You mean you don't give those to me? Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's awesome. But to answer your question, yes, the kids were coming from far and wide, and we were operating as a Title I school, but you need prior data to assign the Title I status because you need to check it in, you need to check with the state, check in with the state and, Department of Education and everything. And then they assign you based on the metrics that you created or metrics they created. I'm a little unclear. And we didn't get it, like we were unable to get it. We didn't have a social worker, so we couldn't identify those students that were coming in from out of country.
I'm sorry. So to clarify, you were not actually Title I your first year at Teal?
No.
Okay.
No. We had, this was also during they put a district hiring freeze because we were in a teacher shortage of coaches. So when I first started, I had to open Lemuel Teal Middle School in February. I became the principal in February. I had from February to August to fill the building with teachers, custodial, front office staff, everybody. I was doing about 4 to 5 interviews a day. And yeah, it was an absolutely wild experience. And then with this hiring freeze, I had the funding to purchase, or not purchase, but hire coaches, hire what I call this tier 2 leadership in the building. And I wasn't able to, even though I had a full staff, I was unable to hire anybody. And so to add another layer of complexity to that, during open house, my assistant principal, she quit right during open. And so she kind of gave me her 2-week notice. I convinced her to stay, and then I was kind of doing this back and forth with her for a couple of weeks, and finally she's, and I respect her for it. She said, I'm done at 2 weeks. And so I essentially had to run Teal by myself. With thinking back, actually, I was able to get a reading coach. That's true. I was able to get a reading coach, and I got a surplus dean. So it was myself, a surplus dean, and a reading coach, essentially running the school for about a month and a half until I was able to hire Barbara Moreland. Moreland was, so she started in September, October, I think mid-September. Yeah, it was wild. I forgot what the sun looked like during the work week.
I can only imagine. Talk about the challenges of opening a brand new school.
Unforeseen consequences.
Unforeseen for sure. Absolutely. Now, while you were, dealing with those, challenges, that were arising while opening a new school, what else would you have to say about the experience of actually opening a brand new school? I feel like there aren't many administrators that have that opportunity to start fresh. Like, did you feel like you put your own stamp on the building, like the design? Like, what were some things that you were excited about for opening a new school for administrators or future administrators that are listening?
So the experience was unlike anything I've ever experienced. Just thinking about it, humbles you. And just to know that you help steer the development in this. And one of the things taking the knowledge that I learned from my prior administration is that, there's, and I don't know if I'm going to use like profanity, but I don't want to say I coined this term, but there's damnation and isolation. Mm-hmm. So every decision that didn't pertain really to money and didn't pertain to safety and security. Okay. I had the staff and Mrs. Teal and the community decide on. So, for instance, the mascot put it out to the incoming cohort of students. I did not create the Spartans. The colors, we had to have blue because the whole entire school was pretty much blue. We needed a secondary color. Then, once we decided that it was the Spartans, we needed the design created. So I had the first teacher I hired, Leah and Dolly, my principal secretary, who I called just the boss of the school, Diana Porter. And I had
the backbone.
Oh my gosh. She's absolutely wonderful. And then you have Mrs. Teal. And I didn't do anything. I was like, guys, this is intended to be outlasting all of us. I don't want to have a hand in it. You guys create it. This is something that's supposed to last the ages. So these decisions bring in a shared ownership of the school. And that's how I led with everything. the experience was fantastic because I was able to, fill the building. I filled the building in less than 5 months, and it was tough.
No, I can
It was
imagine,
tough,
but
but
that
yeah.
which is, like I said, it's really kind of listening to this. It gives me goosebumps. It's remarkable how you could do that. And staffing, though, like from my understanding, you have been fully staffed for these last 2 years, or like your first year open, and then this year as well with your faculty. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Now that's a challenge, especially with a teacher shortage. I feel that if you look at any weekly posting for career opportunities within, our county or elsewhere, there's a teacher shortage. I think that's safe to say. We are
Hmm.
in dire need of educators in the classroom. There are
Yep.
schools out there for whatever reason are having difficulty fully staffing, in their building. What what's the secret? Like what works so well that you could have these educators attracted to come into work at Lemuel Teal to where you don't have this issue?
Whew. All right. So
Loaded question. I understand.
no,
I
no,
understand, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
no, and I'm happy to share the ingredients. The problem with answering, and I got to be careful because I by no means want to criticize, other,
Mhm.
my colleagues and
Respectfully,
everything.
yeah,
So
respectfully, with all due
yeah,
respect to
but
else, because different
with all due,
circumstances, I understand. Mhm.
but what I did to fill the building was one, there was really no one to delegate it to. Typically over the summer, you want to give leadership opportunities to your aspiring principals or your aspiring APs, and you have them kind of handle the hiring or get used to the hiring. So, but me, I understood the urgency, and I became hyper focused on the people. The former superintendent, Dr. Bernier, he sat me down and I said, so, what's the sauce? And how do you do this? What's your advice for me, boss? Like you just gave me one of the most prestigious, roles in opening up a school. Like, this is great. What do you do? And he said,
Yeah.
fill the building. He said, we'll get you chairs. Even if the kids end up having to, he goes, I hate saying it like this, but even if the kids sit on the floors because the furniture doesn't come in on time, you're going to have a really tough time when you don't have anybody to teach them.
Hmm.
And so I became hyper focused, and I tried tapping into like outside the box ways of filling the staff. Like, one of the biggest successes that I had was social media. I mean,
Really?
we were in Lehigh, and I knew from my former schools that 90% of the schools that we had lived in, all the teachers worked in the cave. And I don't want to say I didn't want that, but I wanted to get a good jumping point. So I went into a Lehigh Facebook group, which had about 37,000 people at the time. And I said, listen, I'm a brand new principal. I said, I don't really have much of a vision. I want you guys to help me build it. I want to build something that will last, and I want to build something that the community will be proud of. I said, if you have a degree, or even if you don't have a degree, and you're interested in teaching, or you're interested in a position at the school or a school, and you want to be a part of something great, my motto is, we're building something great together. Come on over, send me your resume. And I made that one post. And by the time I laid my head down and woke back up, I had about 20 people in my DMs asking me to send me their resume.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yep. I have a math teacher who was a finance major like myself, who was a Pepsi employee, and he saw my post. One of the best math teachers I've ever worked with. He's awesome, and his numbers show by all metrics this guy is a machine. Met him on Facebook, and he sat down and told me. I said, "How'd you find me?" And he goes, "Facebook. I just didn't want to do this anymore, and I didn't know how easy it was a being a teacher if I had my degree." And so he did his thing, got his temporary, and that was kind of the main ingredient. I'm of the mindset where we need to take the goods with the bads when it
Mm.
comes to social media.
Well,
You
talk
know?
about, I mean, thinking outside of the box. That is
Yeah.
remarkable. I mean, and community engagement and community involvement. I mean, teachers,
Don't get me
community
wrong.
members
They'll give you
supporting.
licks.
Mm,
You have to be courageous enough to receive feedback. I mean, I did something for Valentine's Day, and I'm not a huge, Valentine's Day guy. So I said, we're confiscating all gifts at the door. Kids can get them at the end of the day.
mm.
The community destroyed me. It was just
Oh,
terrible. And so
you,
I went,
you can't mess with Valentine's Day. I'm sorry.
yeah, you can't
In
mess
school,
with
you should know
that.
this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my, exactly. Like
Lesson
you
learned, my
can't.
friends.
Exactly. So they tore me apart. But the thing is, I went on. I said, clearly, I made some of you guys mad. I said, I'll eat this one. This one's all my fault. This is none of my people's fault. So if you want, if you have an issue, please send me an email or send me a DM. But instead, how about you guys help me build something, a policy that will recognize students on Valentine's Day, and I won't have to take the 10 feet tall teddy bears that are getting brought into the building. And those parents still are in contact with me today, and their kids now go to the school, and they think it's the greatest thing in the world because they had a
Mhm.
discussion in the policies that are being created, and they heard their voice. I've spoken to administrators, and every once in a while, someone will take a shot at a school and say something that they, like, I hate this school,
Yeah.
which happens. So I take a screenshot and I'll send it to those people, and then sometimes they're just, I'm going to let it fizzle out. Not me. The school is brand new. So if they hate that school, it's clearly something that I had to do with. So I can't blame it on my predecessors. So,
That's very true.
yeah, there's no one to blame it on. So it's my
No,
fault.
you are the guy.
Yeah. So I'll take a screenshot, send it to my administrator, send it to my coaches. And it's like, what is this parent talking about? So when I talk to the parent and I already can speak with them, that now we've come to an agreement. Like, parent once said, Lemuel Teal sucks. They took my kid's jacket and it's 30 degrees outside. I was like, well, we're not taking jackets today. It turned out it was from like the day before. The teacher gave me context. And then I even, I talked to the parent. Parent apologized, deleted the post, and bing, bang, boom, you're done. Now I got a person who calls me up whenever something happens. Like,
You're building that trust. Yeah, it sounds like you're building that trust with the community.
yes,
And you need to. If you don't have community, we know if you don't have community buy-in, if you don't have that school-home relationship, that partnership, which really is a partnership, you're going to be just having barrier after barrier put in front of you as an educator, I feel. And that's definitely what we don't want when we want to support our students.
yes, and that's the thing. I had a parent at Harns Marsh, and her and I butt heads back and forth. She was not, she was very strict with her son. And when I opened up the school, I sent her an email. I said, listen, I said, you're insanely tough. You have no problem telling me, what you're thinking. And if I need to change a policy, come be my security guard. And she's been my security guard for 2 years, and she's phenomenal. She's been great. It's just ultimately what it comes down to is relationships, and it's leveraging those relationships. And that's where I believe Teal's success lies. The big quote is the staff is sacred. We just take care of our people and we take care of those around us, and everything falls into place. And, the learning will happen. Everybody will be happy. Like, people come to work and want to stay when they're happy. And so if you lead with that mindset, you do great things.
And you are really, and your staff is happy. I'm fortunate to know many of your staff and have learned, through various programs like Golden Apple and just networking collegiates, things like that, and becoming friends with many or known professionally, through various networking. Your staff speaks so highly of your school and you as an administrator, as a leader, being completely honest with you. And they're just so happy. I see the posts because I am friends with so many on social media, the posts of like birthday celebrations, staff acknowledgments, bosses day, secretaries day, the celebrations with the students.
Yep.
everyone is all smiles. And I guess, a quick little follow-up question with staff is, if you had any advice for a current administrator or a future administrator, and it sounds like, the way you treat your staff is kind of, might already answer this question, but how can you get staff buy-in, or what do you feel is part of your success for having staff buy-in where you're not having this constant turnover of educators in perhaps sometimes, a challenging environment?
And I think that speaks kind of true. My style kind of speaks true to the whole servant leadership bit. I mean, when you include as many people as you can in the decision making, and you try and find value in everything, and you acknowledge the fact that you are in a profession where it's not if the school becomes an A, it's not Dr. Restino who made it the A, it's we. And then at the same time, acknowledging that I didn't go to get my master's and my doctorate and do 9 years as an assistant principal preparing for this job just to be mean. Like, I hate saying it like this. Like, like the staff, at Teal, it's a vibe. And it's a vibe because we all worked on it and we all call each other out. I have teachers that'll walk by my door and say, that no pass policy was not good at all. And I said, really? I kind of agree with you. Like, it's acknowledging that when you make a mistake, you answer it. And if you make a mistake publicly, you acknowledge publicly. I've sent plenty of emails to the staff saying, my bad, that one's on me. Like, I've sent plenty of emails to the community saying, listen, I canceled basketball practice because track was overlapping and it's pouring down rain and the basketball is a club. I'm sorry to the 20 parents who had to last second change their plans. Like, that's on me. That was an isolated decision. That's people. I believe that people like working for people or working with people who can say sorry and catch an L. Like, the whole discourse, the people coming to work and knowing that they have their own personal investment in the school. It's not just a paycheck. It's, being in classrooms once a week. So when you finally have the teacher who popped their tire on the way in and is just having the worst day, and you happen to go in and do a walkthrough on them, you can say, listen, I've been in your room every week for the past 6 weeks. What's wrong? Like, and then they can self-acknowledge. Like, dude, people aren't just all of a sudden saying, oh man, I didn't know this lesson was bad. I was just having a bad day. Some people go in there and they know, like, man, that wasn't good at all. I had a real bad day. So, and talk to them. And that's the type of vibe that we have. I mean, hey, listen, you've been slaying it the past couple weeks. Is there anything wrong? Oh, my tire popped. Do you need anything? Do you need me to watch your kid? Like, I'll babysit your kid while you get your tire fixed. I know you're a single mom living alone and you moved from New York. Like, do you need anything? Like, can I help you? It's knowing your staff and knowing each context so you can leverage relationships just to let them know, like, hey, I'm here for you to help you. But we can do a little bit better, but like, I'm not seeing a pattern here. I just see someone who had a bad day, like, it's okay. You're allowed to have a bad day.
And that speaks volumes, especially as a teacher, as an educator, knowing that your administrator, your administration team leaders really kind of truly value, because at the end of the day, I think that's what we just want to feel. We want to feel valued. And when I say
Absolutely.
I'm generalizing, educators, humans, in general.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel valued, and I can speak personally, and I've been very fortunate, blessed in my career, 20 years now, well, working for many wonderful administrators, but it's the ones that make me feel valued.
My buddy. I was like, careful,
yeah, I know we know too many people in the same circle, so I got to be careful what I say. but also, kidding aside, the ones that I look forward to going to work or my career and I have looked forward to working with and, for are the ones that made me feel valued. I'm heard, I'm cared for. And I really do got to say that, I think that ties in kind of with you said about what servant leadership is. And part of why I wanted to, title this episode servant leadership, because I feel that a true leader is, a servant to their school, their students, and their community.
Yeah, and what's funny is when you put the title of the show is servant leadership. I was reflecting. I was like, how do I even know what this word is? Like, how do I know? Like, am I good at that? Like, I mean, do I exemplify that? Like, do I even know
Mhm.
really what it means?
Yeah.
And I chuckled because there's someone downtown. Her name's, Dr. Shanna Johnson.
Mhm.
That's one thing that she was preaching. And back in the day when I was an assistant principal, I had no idea what that word meant. I was like, servant leadership. So I just do everything for everybody. And then, I kind of
Yeah.
did my own little research and
Yeah.
it's wild. Like, yeah,
It's
it's exactly what the type of leader I want to be.
Yeah. Now, full disclaimer. So I'm currently enrolled myself for my master's for educational leadership, and we had recently learned about servant leadership.
That's
So
awesome.
I was, as I had been learning about, it, and then, kind of setting this episode up with you. And it's it. It's just same thing. I was thinking about like, well, what's the best way really to kind of describe you as my guest on here, and through conversations with your APs and with, other, members of the community that, that have known your work and all that. It just seemed to make the most sense, just the kind of, you said, the way you carry yourself as an administrator, the vibe your school has, the connection you have with the community, all those things. I thought, oh, this is perfect. It ties in nicely with Dr. Restino. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really the reason behind it.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's and good. I'm glad that you're going through the process. You're going through the steps.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. And speaking of amazing, we had talked about, kind of it keeps coming up a little bit about community partnership and buy-in and the Teal family. I I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Can you tell us exactly who was Lemuel Teal? What is his legacy? I know your AP, Steve McKinley, had him as his math teacher at one
Yeah.
point. So kind of full circle for Steve. And then I want to make sure I pointed that out that, you had, one of Mr. Teal's former students is now current AP at a school named after him. Can you just
Mhm.
tell us exactly the legacy of Lemuel Teal and who he was and the involvement with the family still to this day?
Oh yeah. Well, the Teal family is just kind of the pinnacle of educational families. Mrs. Teal was in education. Mr. Teal was in education. Mr. Teal was a math teacher for years, and I don't even want to misrepresent the number because off the top of my head, it was substantial. He's been in the game for a long time, and a lot of administrators in the county had him as a teacher. I know he was a teacher over at Fort Myers Middle. He was really big in the community, really big in his fraternity. And it was a huge, huge win to have a teacher get his own school named after him. I mean, he was exclusively a teacher. And what's awesome,
It's the highest of honors, really,
oh, yeah,
especially as an educator, classroom teacher.
exactly. And Mrs. Teal, she comes over a lot and she always sends me text messages. And we've been pretty close, her and her family. They, Mrs. Teal sends me messages asking so many times, what can I do? She's donated gift cards to the staff. She's participated in staff luncheons. She just came over for Black History Month and with her sorority, and they just came over and made some food for the staff, and we had a giant potluck.
Was awesome.
It's Yeah, I mean, they're a national treasure. I mean, one of my big regrets is not actually knowing Mr. Teal, but if I know that Mr. Teal was a fraction of the person that Susie Teal is, man, I know why our school was named after him. I mean, their family is just fantastic. And it's it's awesome. I mean, because I mean, it's a lot of pressure too, because you want a school to do
Yeah.
well and you want to do well for them and you want to do right by their name. And this whole entire journey has been great. And I'm glad that she's part of it. And yeah, she's been wonderful.
I love that there's that relationship that you have with the family. And once again, just, through the legacy of Mr. Teal and the Teal family kind of lives on, through this school and through educating these students for generations to come. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but it's a lot. It's very meaningful. And she's, yes, very, very wonderful lady.
Yeah. Now, what's on the horizon for Lemuel Teal? I read something online. It's called, I believe it's a partnership. Once again, correct me if I'm misspeaking. Called the Black Box Theater. Can you tell us a little about what that is and what's happening?
So back when, I want to say back in the day, a couple of years ago, they were going to merge what is now Teal with Veterans Park and create a mega school. And they were going to add a black box theater, which is it's either 500 or 700 seat theater that's completely isolated from the school. It's just a third building. And and the idea is the children of the school deserve a very, very nice area, a very nice stage to do their shows. But it's also you're also able to have the community of Lehigh rent the building out for their own shows. And it's awesome. And so when the school broke off from Veterans and became Lemuel Teal, now it's a shared structure between Veterans Park and Lemuel Teal. And I have a really, really great relationship with the principal next door. I admire Ed Carter immensely. So it's very, very easy to have this brand new toy and, share nicely. Like, it hasn't even been fully built, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun watching this structure get built from virtually nothing. I remember when it was just a racquetball court, but it was a racquetball court and they wrecked it. They completely demoed that whole area, and it was cool because the kids were like looking out the window with the demo machine.
Yeah,
and, like the big massive jackhammer just destroyed the area. I'm on the fence, pressing my face up against the chain link fence. I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. But the idea is that it's a shared structure to be shared with two schools in the community, and really any other school that wants to do something. I mean, it could be used for middle school graduation. It could be used for honor roll ceremonies. It's endless, the ideas that you can do with this thing.
I'm not sure if there's anything similar to that out in the district, in the county, something like that. Its own entity.
That's what makes it. That's what separates it from everyone else, is that it's its own entity. Gateway has their own black box theater. I believe there's maybe one or two more schools have it connected, but we're the only school in the district that has it completely separated from the building being built. And the intent is to have it as like a community shared structure.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about community. Wow.
Yeah, but to answer the kind of the second part of your question on like what's on the horizon for Teal, and hopefully in the next couple months we're out of BSI status, and once we're out of BSI status, then it's just tightening the bolts, just incrementally getting better at what we do, and taking this journey with the staff. We're expanding. I mean, at the end of last year, we were at 770. Then we started the school year with 920. And then we're slated this year to have, this next school year, we're going to have about 1,100 kids. So even though we're not losing a lot of people, we're gaining a lot of kids. So we're going to need to hire a lot of people. So I'm kind of shifting my mindset into hiring right now.
Yeah, that's that time of the year, right? Finalizing budgets, all those things. It's probably crunching numbers. And Lemuel Teal, you guys had, I believe, surpassed expectations, right? Your first year regarding, enter the state grade and all that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big celebration for a lot of your staff.
It was a huge celebration. We were at the halfway through the year. I was making the call saying we're going to be a failing school. It required a lot of reflection, a lot of extra work on top of already building a new school, or running a new school. But at the end of last year, we were going to be a C. And then I remember like it was yesterday, we were going to be a C by the skin of our teeth. And then the and that was on a Thursday. The state came out with their new grade scale on Thursday, and we missed a C by 1 point.
Oh,
Like,
ouch.
so yeah, we were a C and then we became a D. We made a lot of changes. We solicited a lot of help. And with the state, the state coming in, they were great too. Like
Yeah.
they're not very easy to please. And, they push you. And it was some of the best work and best training I've ever received. But right now, and I don't like jinxing it. I'm not a real big gambler, but we're slated to get out of BSI status hopefully by the end of this year. And it's going to be a wonderful thing.
I absolutely, and I don't know if any people outside of education really know just how challenging that can be to get out of, a status like that. I had taught previously as a peer collaborative teacher at a DA school, right? Bottom 300 in the state of Florida with heavy involvement from the state. And you're right, they're not easy to please. They're there to guide you and support you, obviously, but there's a lot of pressure when you have involvement. And this is a perfect segue with BSI. Can you tell us exactly what does that mean? And from what I understand, the Florida Department of Education actually had reached out to you or asked you to be a presenter at a BSI Academy. Is that something that's correct?
That is 100% correct.
Just fantastic, by the way. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. So BSI stands for the Bureau of School Improvement. And when you are in a D or F status at your school, that's when they come in and they take a look at your systems. They assist with the creating of new systems, and they kind of set you on a path to what they believe is successful. And there wasn't much debate with me because I agreed with everything that they had. Like it was acknowledging that we could have had better educational systems in our building. And now I had the ability to work on it now that I've expanded and had more help through, more assistant principals, more coaches. And there's three major, what they call it, instructional reviews. And the first one they came by, it was great. They put us on a path to success. We did everything that they said to the T. And then they came back for a second one a couple weeks ago. And afterwards, the lady, she's we all joke and say she's the big scary. She's the one who's she's the toughest, but she's also one of the nicest. She just tells you the stuff that you need to hear. And
that's how you grow sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to hear it sometimes. You got to grow. If you want to grow, you have to hear
it. I think she says, seek comfort in being uncomfortable. She said this was one of the best instructional reviews that she's ever been to. And I said, that's, high praise coming from you. This is great. Thank you. And I was walking out and she said, Joey, have you ever been to the BSI Academy? I said, nope, never been there. She goes, I would like you to present there. Your systems, she goes, your systems are fantastic. And you have systems upon systems. You have systems for your systems, and nothing gets unturned. And we want you to show it as a model for how schools that are in BSI status should go about creating their systems. So I just submitted my presentation day before yesterday and was working with them. They were giving me great ideas. And it's an honor because I believe they said only 2 schools from their region. There's 4 regions and 4 or 5 regions. I believe it's 4. And each region is allowed to submit 2. And I was one of the 2.
That is a big honor.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's a good time. So I'm going over there in June. Yeah, going over there in June to present, and I'm taking the coaches and assistant principals with me, and they're gonna come and watch. I'm probably gonna call on them to help out, because they helped me with these. Like I said before, there's damnation and isolation. They were there with me the whole entire time. My success is their success. Any victory that I've had was because of them and the staff. So it seemed only fitting to, even if I'm the presenter, that they're there
Yeah.
to share the W, I guess is the right way of saying it.
And I love that everything you do, like you said, you do it as a team.
Have to.
And you have to. Yeah, it's lonely at the top. So I feel like, as the saying goes, I think having that support system that you have, it speaks volumes for the relationships you have built with your fellow administrators. And then it trickles down with your staff and your students, and the relationships your teachers built with your students, and the success of, like you said, working your way through, the BSI status, and that honor of presenting at the academy. Wishing you nothing but, the best of success and lots of luck with that when that comes up in June.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I got to say, I could talk to you for hours because I really do find you fascinating. I do. I'm kind of like fanboying over here. My wife was teasing me. She goes, before she left today with the kids, she goes, don't be too big of a fanboy with him. I said, I'll promise I'll try not to be, but no promises. So,
You're too nice. Too nice, man. You're
so,
too nice.
I guess to wrap things up, somebody's listening out there and they're like, administration, that's a tough gig, or, I think, something I'd like to go into one day, or even, like you said, maybe I want to, move into education, change my career. I'm a career changer as well. My bachelor's degree is in communications and media. So whole new world education.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, so representing career changers, when you said that you were in finance, switching over, I'm like, yeah, he's my guy. So final thoughts, advice, what insight that you'd like to share with anyone looking to get into this profession, or currently in this profession of education, and kind of on the fence about becoming an administrator from your own experiences?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. I think the best way that I can explain it, and is for anyone who wants to do this journey, is find out who you are in terms of your leadership. Like I believe that Joe Campataro should not aspire to be or emulate Joe Restino. What you should do in your journey is find people that you can take little bits of pieces that works for you and develop your own leadership style. Because really, I always make a joke saying all the educational books are correct. You just got to do it, unfortunately, in the way that they want you to do it. So if I give someone advice and they follow it without being true to themselves, they're going to have a real tough time. So what I tell all the people, all the administrators that I've helped, become, all the now administrators that have become assistant principals, is there's value in knowing your own limitations and use those limitations and strengths to kind of guide you in becoming who you are. And if it's okay to not know something, and it's okay to, there's strength and weakness, I guess is the right way of saying it. That at least once or twice a day, I laugh when I say, I have no idea how to do that. I don't know the answer to that question. Like, let's find out together, and let's make it a learning moment for all of us. Like, especially with opening up a brand new school, everything was a learning moment. And if I went in there thinking that I knew everything, you would have a really tough time. So for those aspiring leaders, for those aspiring assistant principals, coaches, be yourself, be unwavering in who you are, because that's when I started to realize that I wasn't emulating my bosses. I was just taking the best of them that I felt I could learn and added that to my own deck, like added that on my own leadership deck. And so now I'm not, Alex Dorzansky, who I admire, but Alex Dorzansky is Alex Dorzansky. He will I will never be Alex Dorzansky. Yeah. I can only help him or have him help me to become Joe Restino. Yeah. And that's the best advice I can give someone. It's your journey, not anyone else's. They're helping you down this journey. And yeah, that's my advice.
It's awesome advice. And I definitely something that, I'm going to take to heart as well, on my journey. And I'm sure those listening out there, hopefully they do the same. Dr. Restino, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. about your journey, your school, the community involvement, the legacy of the Teal family. Once again, absolute pleasure and honor speaking to you today.
Thanks, man.
Everyone, you're very welcome. Once again, this is the No Frills Teacher Podcast, Season 3, Episode 5, Servant Leadership with the one and only Dr. Joseph Restino, proud principal of Lemuel Teal Middle School in Lehigh Acres, Florida, School District of Lee County. I'm Joe Camps. This is the No Frills Teacher Podcast. Everyone, take care. Bye.